Our Bible word is Psalm 139, the verses 8 to 10. If I ascend into heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in hell, behold, you are there. If I take the wings of the morning and dwell in the uttermost parts of the sea, even there your hand shall lead me, and your right hand shall hold me. So this is a psalm that's very difficult to pin down in terms of what genre it is. It can be said to be a hymn of thanksgiving or of praise or of prayer. Some say it's a wisdom psalm that has elements of complaint within it. So there's different things that goes on in the psalm. And the psalm is essentially a hymn or a psalm that celebrates God's omnipresence. It marvels at God's omnipresence. Even He's present at the most secret places. And it also praises God for His vast knowledge of the future, of everything. Also us as individuals, how God knows us. So the psalm, it celebrates the omnipresence of God, His intimate knowledge of us. And of course, this also gives us comfort and it gives us hope, also when we face adversity and trial. And there are various main sections of the psalm. For example, there's verses 1 to 6, verses 7 to 12, and then verses 13 to 18, and also 19 to 24. If we look at the first section, that's God's examination of the psalmist. This is where the psalmist invites God to examine him and search him. And it does so by using this literary technique of using opposites. So if we look, it says, "O Lord, you have searched me and known me. You know my sitting down and my rising up. You understand my thought afar off. You comprehend my path and my laying down. You are acquainted with all my ways," etc. Verse 5, "You have hedged me behind and before." So this polar opposites, this is a technique that the psalmist explains or uses to explain how God searches us or knows us from left to right, top to bottom, front, back, whatever. It's God knows us, everything that about us as individuals. And then verse 6, he says, "Such knowledge is too wonderful for me. It is high. I cannot attain it." So God knows the psalmist. God knows us. Everything about us, God knows as individuals. Now in the next section, the psalmist asks these questions, these rhetorical questions. If I want to flee from you, where can I go where you are not present? And then the psalmist eventually also says, I can't go anywhere to flee from you, because wherever I go, you are present. So God is not only omniscient in His knowledge, God also knows where I am. He's omnipresent. Wherever we go, God is present. So from verse 7, "Where can I go from your spirit? Or where can I flee from your presence?" This is a rhetorical question. Can I escape from your presence, God? Well, the answer is no. Now we come to our Bible verse. "If I ascend into heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in hell, behold, you are there." So it doesn't matter how high I go or how low I go, God is there. Of course, this translation here of hell is also misleading. The Hebrew is Sheol. It just refers to the realm of the dead. So if I go up into the sky, into the heaven, God, you are there. If I go down in the underworld to Sheol, you are also there. So up or down, God is there. Also, if I go east or west, God is there. And that's the next section that we can read. "If I take the wings of the morning," in other words, if I travel to the east and dwell in the uttermost parts of the sea, that is, if I travel far to the west, "even there your hand shall lead me, and your right hand shall hold me." So God is present everywhere. It doesn't matter where I go. Then the psalmist speaks of darkness. If I go to darkness, now it can also be symbolic for chaos, for disorder. And that's supposedly where God is not present. But the psalmist also says, even in darkness, even in chaos, God is present there. Because light and dark is the same for God. It doesn't matter where we want to flee, so to speak, from God. Even if we want to flee to chaos, God is present there, in the darkness also. Now from verses 13 to 18, the psalmist celebrates God's presence from the beginning of his life, from the beginning of our life, even when we're made or formed in secret in our mother's womb. For you formed my inward parts, you covered me in my mother's womb. I will praise you, etc. So God knows us even from the time we were conceived. And also God knows our life, our future, what will happen. If you read in verse 16, your eyes saw my substance, being yet unformed, and in your book they were all written, the days fashioned for me, when as yet there were none of them. So in other words, God even knows our future. Our whole life God knows. Now in the last section, there's a shift away from this hymn of praise to God, more to a complaint, to a plea for help. The psalmist finds himself in a time of difficulty. There are enemies, and now he also addresses God about them. Oh, that you would slay the wicked, O God. Depart from me, therefore, you bloodthirsty men. So he explains these people as bloodthirsty, as wicked. His life is in danger. And now he needs God's help from this danger in these difficult circumstances. And now the psalmist writes there, do I not hate them, O Lord, who hate you, etc. So it's about these enemies who oppose God. And he's also praying to God, well, slay them, because they are evil and wicked people. And then also he invites God now, search me again. Search me, God, and know my heart. Try me and know my anxieties, and see if there's any wicked way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. So he says, God, I need your help in this difficult circumstance. There are enemies, they speak evil of you, but I want your presence. I want you with me. So come search me, see if there's any evil in me. Because he wants God to be present. He wants to experience God's presence in his life. So this is a psalm that celebrates God's omniscience. God knows everything about me as an individual from the time I was born. Also God's omnipresence. Whether I go far up or down or east or west, wherever, I cannot flee away from God's presence. God is everywhere. So it's a celebration of God's majesty. He is God. This is the God whom we serve and worship. He's omniscient. He's omnipresent.